Hello, welcome back to the L1 show Links with Friends. Today is October 17th, and we're doing government and security stories to start your week. You may notice we have an absence today. It's Wendell. Wendell's not back yet.
It's not related to current geopolitics. Don't worry.
Oh my gosh. It's been a depressing week of news for everyone, I think. So, engagement challenge. What's the last thing that made you cry laugh? Let's get some cheerfulness in the chat, because the stories aren't going to be happy this week.
Well, this one may be happy depending on where you stand. And this is an old fight that's coming back, and all the old bitterness is coming with it. So will this be the year of net neutrality?
Net neutrality's court fate depends on whether broadband is telecommunications, quote.
So it's all about the old Title I, Title II argument. Currently, we refer to it as Title I. This lady here wants to refer to it as Title II, and there's going to be a big debate about whether or not that's okay.
And they'll just keep kicking that can down the road.
This is supposed to be the time when we stop kicking. They've got the majority finally, right? And over at the FTC, we have the other agency that claims to finally be doing something, and they are tackling something that I think pretty much everybody can agree on, except for the companies that are perpetrating this crime.
FTC lays out new rule that could end hidden fees.
So basically, you advertise one fee, then you know, like a cable company gives you the NFL fee.
Yeah, just random crap that they tack on.
The environmental fee or whatever. So that's
new rule from 2022 that we decided we're just going to throw in there and not explain to you.
And in many cases, they're not legally required to charge those fees. They just want your money. Makes it easier for them to do that. So according to this, they want to get rid of all of that. And you have to be able to compare one flat fee when you are looking at different services and not have to sign up for one and be like, wait a minute, this is actually $20 more expensive every month than I thought it was going to be.
I'm feeling that.
Good luck with that.
Would love for that to go through.
Well, here's one that did finally go through. Of course, we've been talking about this for a long time. There's no really new information here, but the wheels of government, and finally the wheels of government have turned enough that this has actually happened.
Right to repair is now the law in California. What were the other states? Was Maine one? Am I imagining that?
They all had a version of it. New York had one. There was some New England states that had some. I think it was Montana.
I also thought Montana, but I can't remember.
But this one will be the most extreme. And because California's economy is so massive, this will kind of be de facto. You're going to make your devices conform to this.
Oh, yeah. Tech stuff's all in California.
Right. So that'll probably be good. There are some loopholes, as we've discussed in the past. Just go back and browse the catalog. And Facebook has always been in trouble for their targeted advertisings, because part of targeted advertising is that you can exclude people. You can make someone not the target of advertising. You might be thinking, who would ever want to actually be the target of advertising? Well, they found somebody.
Facebook's sexist, ageist ad targeting violates California law, court finds.
Now, it's true that Facebook is a monster and they shouldn't be doing this. But this argument is a little weird. So this lady was an older gal, and she, 48, actually, she's not that old. But she went to look up insurance on Facebook ads.
Which, why would you do that on Facebook?
Yeah,
but
and
I guess Google's garbage now, so.
That's true. She claims that she didn't get those ads because insurance companies don't want to insure her because she's a risk. She's more risky than other people. And she claims that that was discrimination. Kind of true, I guess.
But that's how insurance works. I mean,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So she's saying that because they discriminated in advertising and stuff like that, then she should have a lawsuit against them. Kind of true.
Yeah. I just can't imagine a world where I'd be like, yes, show me more ads. But
I hope that somehow this case law doesn't create a world where later on it's like, no, people want ads.
You can't opt out.
People want ads and we can prove it. Let's just reference this court case. She also claimed that she couldn't go to the individual insurance sites and get that information. I don't know if that's true.
Well, I mean, we just talked about how they don't always put their fees and stuff in. So, I mean, that makes sense, right?
Well, they're not going to put it in a Facebook ad either.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any extra information.
Got like 60 characters, and it's like, we're going to put all our fees right there, nowhere else.
Well, if Lena Khan gets her way, they might have to do that with the little the nutritional info thing. And we got a whole bunch of California stories. Actually, I don't know why I didn't put this. I do know why, because this was a late sort. We're scrambling. But yeah, California doing a bunch of new things about your online existence.
California governor signs ban on social media aiding or abetting child abuse. More internet regulation.
It seems like that should already be illegal, right?
You would think.
I feel like if you're aiding and abetting child abuse in any format, that would be already against the law.
I wonder if this is a way to go after like the weird YouTube family channels. You ever seen that stuff? It's weird.
Oh yeah, that was the what was the name of that?
There's a lot of channels that are like that, and then they end up being incredibly abusive behind the scenes.
Oh, her name was Frankie. Frankie, the Frankie case. She ran a YouTube channel about. I think she was Mormon. She was like hardcore, super disciplined children.
Yeah,
and it was like the perfect family. She had 10 million kids, and one of the kids was being abused and was bound up and escaped to the neighbors. And they uncovered a whole nightmare scenario.
That's happened multiple times with multiple channels, which is insane to me. But
they interviewed those kids and they're like, isn't it great being the YouTube kids? And they're like, I hate this. I don't have any friends.
Yeah, because who wants to be in a video like with your friend's dad or their mom putting a camera in your face?
Either way, please don't aid and abet trafficking of children on social media. And PayPal is in trouble. Another big antitrust suit. It seems like these are popping up everywhere. It's like mushrooms after a spring rain.
Oh, PayPal faces new antitrust lawsuit claiming it unfairly stifles competition with Stripe, Shopify, and more.
So what's at odds here is that if you accept PayPal on your site, you must sign an agreement saying that you can't let other payment processors have a lesser price minus the PayPal fees.
Okay. I could see how that's a little antitrust.
Oh, I thought you were going to be cool with it. I was like,
no.
Really?
No. I was like, I don't know. Because like PayPal, Stripe, Shopify, there's like a ton of other payment processors, but the whole, that's
right.
That's
so
fair.
You could say, well, because the PayPal fee is like, well, it's a little bit cheaper. Kind of like,
I'll just use PayPal.
Let me give you the Wendell Bingo thing, like T-Mobile letting you pay less if you do the ACH transfer rather than the credit card. But in this case, not as anti-consumer, is it? It's interesting. And if you're a Sonos stockholder, are they still publicly traded at this point? Bad news for you, because you thought that you had won, but as usual in the American justice system, you've never actually won. There's always an appellate court that will rule with big tech.
Federal judge throws out $32.5 million win for Sonos against Google.
Now, I've not looked into the brass tacks of this, but the judge claimed that they didn't actually have the patent that they referenced. They got the patent later. So they had the idea. They went to Google. Google copied the idea. Then they got the patent and they sued Google. That's his timeline. And Google says, we didn't steal that patent. They didn't say they didn't steal the idea. I think that's probably pretty much proven because they did meet with Sonos and talk about, maybe partnering up or whatever. But Google wins again. Who could have predicted that? And Utah will not give up its dogged fight against the evils of TikTok.
Utah sues TikTok, alleging it lures children into addictive and destructive social media habits. True, but also true of YouTube, of Facebook, of Instagram.
Television.
Yeah.
I mean, all of our major media.
Baldur's Gate.
Wants to do newspapers. That's what they want. They want to give you the endorphins because it keeps you coming back. So TikTok's just really good at it.
I've never installed TikTok, even when it was like first coming in, because I was afraid that I would rot my brain with it. I already rot my brain with too much.
I remember when YouTube Shorts started, I was like, let's click, see how they did this. And I was clicking and I'd scrolled maybe like 2-3 minutes before I was like, oh,
Yeah,
what just happened there? Better stay away from
I gotta stop. I can't just do that. I got things to do.
It reminded me of when I got a wisdom tooth taken out and they gave me Vicodin and I took one and I was like, that's why that's a problem.
Oh, that's why people do that.
You got to be careful with this. And New York is certainly at the forefront of banning a lot of this new technology and trying to control that space. But as any country that's ever tried capital controls can tell you, it doesn't work. It creates a black market.
New York's Airbnb ban is descending into pure chaos. So now instead of using Airbnb, a lot of landlords are just using Marketplace or random ads or things like that. So there's no protections for the people renting or the people renting their places out.
Some of them even going so far as to put in the comments of the listing, hey, make sure that you mention that you're exempt from such and such, even though they don't have any idea if the customer is actually exempt. Because there is a way that you can say like, oh, this doesn't apply to me because of X, Y, Z. So a lot of loopholes, like you say, a lot of going outside of Airbnb, just doing it yourself. A barter system. But eventually somebody's going to burn down a house or not pay or whatever. And
That's probably already happened.
Yeah. Whole thing falls apart. That's why we have to have a zero trust transaction system. And New York is also agreeing with Utah, but in a much more broader scale.
New York lawmakers are cracking down on kids' exposure to social media algorithms. Blech.
So rather than ban it outright, as many states have done, what they are saying is that there needs to be a difference between, like, if you go on TikTok and you're just looking at your friends' stuff, totally cool. But as soon as the algorithm is present, you must be 18 years old.
Yeah, basically you have to follow the person.
Right.
Is the way they explained it.
Which is, nobody uses TikTok like that, right?
I think you can follow people on TikTok.
Yeah, but it's all about that home feed. It's about the morphine drip.
Yeah, random videos from random places.
So they want, now of course that will bring up the whole problem of how does TikTok decide if you're 18 or not. Mm-hmm. So we're back into that, which has not been reasonably solved.
We had some friends over last weekend, which was great. But the kids got on our thing and were watching YouTube, and now my account keeps showing me like kids videos. It's completely ruined my algorithm. I have to keep going through and being like, not interested, don't want to watch Blippi. But it keeps trying.
Was that the Blue Dog?
No, that is the parents in our audience know. The Blue Dog is, it's not Paw Patrol. Is it Blippi? There's one that like parents hate, and there's one that it's Bluey. Bluey parents love. Blippi parents hate.
There's some
at
character.
Least my friends.
There's some character I can't remember the name of it. But there's a character in the Blue Dog show, and that same name of that character was something I was trying to Google, and I couldn't find anything other than the Blue Dog.
Bluey's really, really popular. I don't know why. If you're a parent, engagement challenge, let us know.
Interesting that Blue's Clues was our generation's like children crack. Do we always go for Blue?
I don't know. It's a dog too.
Probably a DNC conspiracy. Now, Google is still embroiled in their antitrust suit, and week after week we get just nugget after nugget of interesting things that they have done, and by interesting, I mean probably illegal.
Google changed ad auctions, raising prices 15%, witness says. I like the use of the word witness in the headline, implying it was like a hit and run murder.
Well, I mean, it's a witness in court. So the game here was, in the ad auctions, the runner-up was usually pretty far behind the highest bidder. And they didn't like that. So they wanted to artificially make it seem like the highest bidder, the highest bid was more competitive, so that you could charge more to the highest bidders. And they had a special little thing that did that. And that would not be, if you were running an auction, that would be a very deceptive way to run an auction to benefit.
Do you think there's comments in the code about that? This artificially raises the price.
They might have been smarter than that. But they did have some comments from some of the stuff they uncovered where it was like, yeah, we shouldn't talk about this.
They do that a lot.
Yeah, don't bring up stuff.
Oh, that's embarrassing. Don't talk about that.
Well, in fairness, they were right. They shouldn't have talked about it. And artificial intelligence continues to be a hot button issue in the news. Actually, I've seen quite a few deepfakes in terms of the war situation.
I'm trying to think. I thought I saw one the other day as well. It's very sad.
So what are we going to do about it? Well, they want to make laws, but how do you enforce these laws?
No Fakes Act wants to protect actors and singers from unauthorized AI replicas. There are a couple loopholes. One of them was like, if it's parody, that's fine.
Or news.
I also thought that was weird.
I don't understand that.
Is that in case like you're on the news and you need to tell people, hey, this one is fake, so you can air it safely?
I guess, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, parody news and some other stuff.
Commercial use, I thought that was what stuck out to me as weird. I assume news maybe is technically commercial.
I mean, commercials should not be exempt. Isn't that one of the most dangerous?
That's what I would think.
That was the Tom Hanks thing.
Well, yeah, so it says news, documentary, or a parody. So parody, I make sense. News maybe makes sense. I guess documentary, I guess if you were doing an AI documentary, maybe that's the loophole.
Or you were doing a documentary that was, like you say, exploring the use of deepfakes.
Yeah.
Do you know what the most shocking thing about all that is? You just managed to read that.
I know. Their font's a good size. Some of the sites we look at, the font's like this big.
You eating some carrots?
Maybe too, like, I don't have the light right in my eye over on this side, so maybe that helps.
The lights are oppressive. And China, we've learned that Huawei came up with their own chip. Maybe they fudged it a little. Maybe they cheated a little bit with South Korea, but Huawei got a new phone out and nobody expected that to happen. And it might be that they are actually just doing things on their own, and the American government cannot have that.
RISC-V technology emerges as battleground in U.S.-China tech war.
So our politicians are actually making the argument that open source RISC-V is something that America should ban in some ways. Because by improving RISC-V via open source, we give China the ability to have good chips. I don't think they understand the whole mentality of open source.
No. It's just like nothing deep. It's like, that's not how that works, but
it is how it works. It's how it's supposed to work. You know, we all work on it together.
No, that's what I mean. Like trying to not let someone use it that's how it doesn't work.
Yeah. But if it did continue to be open, I'm not saying the Communist Party would tolerate that, but if it did continue to be open, we could make sure it was safe. So kind of a self-solving problem. And one of the problems that car makers are having right now is that they want an absurd amount of money for their cars. So as usual, the government is going to pick a winner and decide which car you buy based on giving you a ton of subsidies.
EV buyers will get an instant rebate as much as $7,500 starting in 2024. My brain kind of fudged that headline a little bit, but it's fine.
So how is this different from the ones before? Well, the ones before were a tax rebate. This is not. This is literally just the car dealers eat the cost and they get refunded for that cost. However, several car dealers said, yeah, I remember Obama's cash for clunkers. It took us months to get paid for that. I don't want anything to do with this. But I don't know if they get to opt out of it. Even if they could, who's going to buy a car from them rather than going across the street and getting $7,500 off? And the FTX trial continues to move forward, and we finally got the testimony from this lovely young lady that used to be his girlfriend. And boy, is there a lot of surprising stuff in that.
FTX tried a lawyer, Thai prostitutes, and finally a bribe to get frozen funds unlocked, witness says.
Now, you might be thinking that...
Which one of these doesn't belong?
Well, you think when you read the headline, it's like, well, did they send a prostitute to seduce somebody? And no, they hired her just for her identity to try and send the funds to her because they were blocked from sending them to themselves. Didn't work. So then they tried the bribe, which I think the bribe was like $150 million. It was astonishing how much money these people had versus how stupid they were.
The universe takes care of an idiot.
It did for a while.
It didn't, yeah. It doesn't take care of us in quite the same way, but we also don't face these kind of repercussions. So
he had a hell of a run.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that these people are idiots. Maybe just, seduced by technology, which can we say that we're not
We run a tech channel
every
so no.
day? So I can understand this, but they were not prepared for the hidden hand of the government, which in our new dystopian society, you're not allowed to silence in your life. You must hear their words. And this was bad.
Amish men shunned after nationwide emergency alert outs them for having phones. You have that phone, but you don't see all the memes about, hey, there's an emergency alert coming. Maybe they don't have a lot of time to browse it.
Right, yeah, they have to keep them hidden and
yeah.
they can't look at them. I mean, you think during your day, if you're outside, you can't whip your phone out. That's probably, I bet Amish smartphone users are like 90% on the toilet users.
I'm imagining like they're trying to read a book at night, but it's like by candlelight, but there's a bright blue glow on their face.
So the one guy, it turns out there's an ex-Amish guy and he's like their dealer. He's like, I don't believe in that and I left it. And so whenever they come to me and they want technology, I do what I can to help them. So he was getting their phones to them.
Right.
So he didn't think to warn them. Now, one of the guys in here was already being investigated for a shunning. Did you read about what a shunning is?
I've heard about it, like in other contexts. I also know about like, what is it, the Amish thing that they do, the Rumspringa?
Right.
Which is like where they get to go out and enjoy the world for a little bit and then they come back.
But once you're back, you're back.
You're back,
You're done with it. So these people they'd committed, but they still had the smartphone. But they were already, so a shunning is like, you don't get to eat with the other people. You don't get to partake in like the barn raisings or anything like that. You have to be off to think about what you've done for some amount of time. So the elders were there investigating him for other shunning violations.
You know what would help with that? A phone to pass the hours.
And while he was under investigation, like they came to his house and he was talking to him in his driveway. While they were talking to him about other shunning matters, he got the emergency alert.
Oh.
Yeah. So now he's double shunned.
At that point, does it just reverse? He can come raise the barn again.
So tough times. Tough times for the Amish. And here's something that I guess this was inevitable because everybody else had given up. But now we will have this horrible, horrible behemoth merging from two monsters.
Microsoft's Activision Blizzard deal approved by UK regulators. They were kind of the holdout for a while. I thought maybe they wouldn't let it happen, but here we are.
It's going to happen.
Whatever. Let them have Blizzard's husk of a corpse.
Microsoft Call of Duty.
Ugh.
And over in Europe, they are looking at these new, digital safety or whatever, these new rules. I've actually got the UK rules and you also got the EU doing a new kind of thing. And so the big question is who and what applications, what things should this be applied to? And there is some debate.
Should new tech rules apply to Microsoft's Bing, Apple's iMessage? EU asks. I would say yeah, for the most part.
Seems obvious, right? I mean, the iMessage thing, of course, we talked about that last week, the green versus blue. And then Microsoft Bing now bringing the AI in, doing all the cloud stuff. They really want to get control of that.
Is Microsoft really a tiny company that can't handle those costs? I mean,
well, they're going to get a little bit bigger, aren't they?
Yeah.
And we talked about the deep fakes. Deep fakes are becoming a thing in the news world now. We saw quite a few of them dealing with the war. We also saw this.
UK opposition leader targeted by AI-generated fake audio smear. The audio was him abusing his staff, which they confirmed was probably like 75% sure it wasn't fake. Or it was fake, rather.
Well, the people who put it out claimed that they had checked and it was real. But then some researcher came along and said, no, I ran it through my thing and I believe it's 75% likely this is fake.
Yeah.
So we still really don't know. This is the future. It's not true or false. It's truthiness.
Yeah, it's a scale. Well, the algorithm says it's only 75% false.
Fuzzy logic is coming to reality.
I can't wait for that to... I'm sure it already has, and I just haven't seen it, but I'm sure that will be a huge thing in the next big election here.
Oh my God, yes. And unfortunately, a lot of our digital communications go under the sea, and it's hard to keep track of those, right? We saw this one is not only just to communications, but also oil or gas.
Damage to gas pipeline telecom cable connecting Finland and Estonia caused by external activity. As of this viewing, we don't know exactly what it is. They say it's not an explosion. I think the thought was that it might be an anchor was dragged across it several times.
But also, it was heavy mechanical damage, so a diver could not have done it. And it wasn't explosives. So either, like you say, a boat or an anchor or something more nefarious designed to do this.
I don't love it. This has been a really, usually I would be all in on the doom scroll this week, but I'm like, I can't mentally handle this right now, so I'm just not going to look at it.
Really? I'm fully immersed.
You're fully immersed in the doom?
I'm watching every scrap.
I can't do it.
Well, you know where you might actually find an easier way to live that lifestyle? China. Because they don't actually like anything outside getting in, and they're serious about it.
Chinese programmer ordered to pay 1 million, is it yuan? I think we've talked about this before, and chat told us.
Yuan is a very Americanized way of saying it.
Yeah.
But it's not worth the effort of trying it.
1 million Chinese dollars for using virtual private network.
You can also say renminbi, which is not
excuse
easier.
Me? What was it?
Renminbi.
Renminbi.
REMINBI. So this fella worked for a Turkish company, and he was under investigation for possibly tweeting something nasty about the CCP. Turns out, at least he claims he didn't do that. It was somebody else. But in the process of seizing all of his electronics because of a tweet, they found his VPN.
Ooh.
So they took all of his money that he earned during a 2-year period.
Wow.
By using that VPN.
I did catch a little bit of doom scroll this week about all the stuff that's going on with their bank runs or whatever. Is that actually becoming more of a thing?
I don't even know about that one.
Wow.
Where's it? Where are we having bank runs?
China.
Oh, China. Oh, yeah.
For a while there were talks about it, but you couldn't find a ton of sources. But I'm seeing it on more larger news sites now.
Yeah, according to the Chinese propaganda YouTube channels, they won't let you take your money out.
Yeah. That's what those news articles were saying as well.
Well, what are they going to do with all that money that they've captured? Probably they're going to invest in artificial intelligence.
China targets 50% boost in computing power as AI race with U.S. ramps up.
So they have 140 some exaflops, and they want 300 in 2 years.
Exaflops is such a silly word. Anytime I see it, I'm like, I can't take that seriously.
Flop is a fun acronym.
Yeah.
And not to be outdone by the Euros, South Korea is also in the habit of going after big tech and pointing out all the evils that they do and fining them for it.
South Korea warns Google, Apple of possible fines over apps marketing.
This is the same old argument of, your apps and your ecosystem get an advantage. We don't like it. Do better.
And everybody else is fining you, so we want to too.
And the Chinese chip war is interesting in that we kind of just jumped off the cliff with it, right? And then afterwards we started looking, it's like, wow, this affects a lot of things we didn't think about it affecting. There's a lot of unintended consequences here. So what do? Well, you just exclude a lot of people.
South Korean firms get indefinite waiver on U.S. chip gear supplies to China.
So they're just allowed to do it now. Special dispensation for them. Moving to security, we got a bunch of horrible security bugs that were discovered during this past week.
State-backed hackers are exploiting new critical Atlassian zero-day bug.
I think this was the one that was just the on-premises thing, and you need to patch it. But they found that it was being exploited as far back as September. So it's already a problem.
We should really just I always think we should rapid fire some of these because it's literally just patch.
Well, there's no patch for this one. Actually, I think there might actually be now. you can change the configuration in some ways.
By the time they see this, there probably will be one.
I think actually, no, I remember the fix here was to change the configuration for one thing to be unconfigured, which will stop this.
HTTP 2 rapid reset 0-day exploited to launch largest DDoS attacks in history.
So HTTP 2 has this thing where you can initiate a request and then cancel it. And they figured out if they do that rapidly over and over, it just shuts everything down.
It's like when you test something on a website and you just click on it really fast. And it's like, oh, unexpected behavior. It's like, well, who does that? But I guess someone.
Frustration clicking.
Yeah.
That burned me one time on a credit card submission form.
Really?
Somebody got charged like 15 times. So I was like, 15 times? And what were they doing?
Just angrily mashing the button. Something you have to test for.
That's an early lesson that you have to learn when you're building web applications. Is you got to turn off that behavior. After they click, you got to turn the button off because people will just sit and smash it. And here's a little bit worrying thing where we talk about the supply chain attacks. And oh boy, was this a hell of a supply chain attack.
Android devices with backdoored firmware found in U.S. schools.
So this firmware pretty much infects everything that you run, allows pretty much full control. Mostly they just use it for advertising. And
it's not even interesting evil. It's just advertising.
well, it's not advertising like you're thinking of, though. It's like the click farming where you boot up your laptop and you're at school doing whatever, but in the background, invisibly, it's just clicking on ads. So it's feeding their click farm from an American IP address with your identity, so it doesn't get flagged.
It's just the most boring form of evil there is.
It makes money though.
Yeah.
It's like the Office Space trick, right? Give me 1 penny, but give it from me for every person in the world. It's a lot of pennies. And here's something that is just evergreen. You can always expect that there's one of these floating around.
New WordPress backdoor creates rogue admin to hijack websites. Surprising no one.
This is a caching plugin, and it does do a little caching, but mostly it just steals everything. This one also allows full control and ad replacement and so forth, so your website will quietly be making money for somebody else. And Google, was it like a year or something ago now, they announced the end of passwords. I don't know, I'm still using passwords, aren't you?
Google makes passkeys the default sign-in method for all users. This image distresses me. It looks like the thumbprint is holding the lock hostage.
I thought, isn't this supposed to be like that's the shadow of the thumbprint is the lock? It's floating in space.
Well, I guess maybe. I'm not sure what they're going for there. I feel like the shadow would extend further underneath the thumbprint, but maybe not.
I can't pronounce that.
I can't see it. It's too small.
But he's the one that created that. Maybe we could email him. And another thing that we've learned from FTX is that FTX actually had on their website a little thing that updated in real time. It's like, hey, here's how much FTX has set aside for insurance in case it ever falls apart and everybody loses their money. But it fell apart and everybody lost their money and there was no insurance. What gives?
FTX used Python code to fake its insurance fund figure. Gary Wang.
Gary Wang being the snitch who revealed all this and pointed out the code. So it was actually just a slightly random number multiplied by their trading volume. So it looked like it was updating with the market, but it wasn't.
That's like a special level of fakery. Like they could have just put random numbers there, but they're like, no, make it look legit.
Because there was a lot of people, looking to nail them on it. People were sniffing around. Crunchyroll is the streaming service for anime. And if you signed up with them, they took a lot of your information and here's a shocker, sold it.
Crunchyroll will pay you $30 for violating your data privacy rights. I probably have a very old Crunchyroll account.
$30.
I was probably assigned to an email I don't have access to anymore.
Tragic. You had to use this service between September 8, 2020 and September 20, 2023.
No, I haven't used it. I was like a teen, probably.
Well, you're never going to get your $30.
Tragic.
And as we said, the war has pretty much, taken over all of our media and my time. And as usual, when a war pops off, we saw this with the Ukraine conflict, immediately the hacktivists get to work.
Hacktivism erupts in response to the war.
So the Jerusalem Post, which is, probably reporting a little bit one-sided in the conflict, they got defaced. There were some other denial of services and so forth. And I don't think that there was any limitation to the flow of information. I think the information is pretty much getting out there. So.
It's crazy. There are live streams. I guess that happened in Ukraine as well. Like people just put live streams up of like cities and it's just.
Yeah, but the skyline you can literally just sit there and watch it change.
Ugh.
It's wild.
I saw the live stream pop up and I was like, I'm not clicking that. Mental health does not need it.
It is.
It's so sad.
It's a crazy, like the level,
All of it.
The level of horror going on there is pretty wild. But 23andMe, this happened actually quite a while ago. Well, maybe not that long ago.
I think someone sent this to us last week. We might have missed it.
Yeah, we just didn't talk about it because I think it was maybe a Friday thing. Anyway, they had a leak, and as usual, the news is pointing out like the most affected people that could be impacted from this leak, people who might not want their genetics to be out there for obvious reasons.
23andMe scraping incident leaked data on 1.3 million users of, I can't say this word, Ashkenazi
Sounds right.
and Chinese descent.
Now, 23andMe still maintains this was not a hack, but rather credential stuffing. And then once you get in there, if anybody's even remotely related to you, it sort of shows you like your relationship network.
Yeah. And if someone, even if it's just someone you know does it, like your stuff's going to be in there.
And they were able to scrape based on that. So they didn't compromise all the accounts, but then they were still able to scrape your information based on your connections. That's terrifying because I'm sure somebody in my family has done that.
I know someone in our family has done it, or at least on my husband's side. So like my husband's going to be in there.
You should give them an angry phone call.
He controlled the Netflix account.
Not
anymore. Yeah.
Now there's no use.
Yeah.
You're nothing to us. And the big casino hack, we are now getting some more information about that.
Casino giant MGM expects 100 million hit from hack that led to data breach.
MGM did not pay the fine because they were already in the middle of backing up, or maybe it was the other way around. One of these two companies didn't pay, the other one did, but in both cases, they got away with it.
Casino giant Caesars tells thousands, yep, ransomware crooks stole your data.
Including your driver's license.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a tough one for the identity theft.
Ooh, that's really bad.
Loyalty members.
I don't really, maybe someone in the chat can tell. I don't really understand the appeal of Vegas, but I don't really like to gamble.
Well, that makes sense then, right? Because the appeal of Vegas is gambling.
But surely there's other stuff to do.
How do you feel about prostitution?
Not into it, personally.
It's
But
another one that's not going to pull you into Vegas. Huh?
yeah.
They got that big orb. I love that orb.
I do love seeing the giant eyeball like over the city.
I'm not gonna go visit it in person, but I wouldn't mind checking it out.
Because I'm sure there's like a crowd of tourists around it all the time. But seeing it online is cool.
I bet the locals are numb to it at this point.
But there's tourists, yeah.
Well, Microsoft is having yet another problem, and usually it's just in the newest version of Windows, but in this case, it's all of the Windows.
Microsoft confirms 65,000 BitLocker encryption error is haunting Windows 11 and Windows 10. Like it's a ghost.
It's breaking everything. You know what? Maybe this is the one that you need to go in and make it unconfigured. Yeah. Change the policy settings to not configured. So they actually have the workaround in this NeoWin article. Check out the one tab if you are experiencing the BitLocker bug. And food delivery services, one of the things about, like you were talking about the China situation, it seems like a lot of people, as they lose their jobs, they filter into these delivery services, these gigs, these side hustles. Now, that's really bad news for you because here's a shocking revelation. They're tracking you.
Food delivery service Glovo tracking riders' private location and other infringements. I mean, Amazon, I'm sure, does this too with their drivers. They all do it.
Well, that makes a little more sense, though, because someone's employing you versus...
Yeah, you're just a contract worker.
So it turns out that you were being tracked even when you were not clocked in. So just when the app was on your phone and you were doing the other stuff, still tracking you. And also kind of a social credit score, where it was not only looking at how you performed in your delivery job, but where you went when you weren't doing your delivery job.
This person spends a lot of time at the bar.
Yeah, that was that kind of thing. You know, it's like, what are you up to?
Ugh.
So this was actually in Italy, and they're going to look into it. I'm sure we're going to see next week some Italian fines. Maybe some EU members getting into that. PMs, is that what they call them? And man, I highly recommend you check out the romance scam YouTube videos. Holiday love rats is the phrase you want to search for. It's astonishing. And it mostly happens to like middle-aged and older women. And it's exactly what happened here in Las Vegas.
Las Vegas area school district loses $1.4 million in international romance scam.
So they knew what they were doing on some level. These guys were not only stealing the district money, but also routing scam money through these women. Because like part of the scam is, who do you send the money to? You need a trusted address. Well, these gals had bank accounts that were totally vetted, part of the school district. Just run the money through there. And it worked. Guess which country was the ultimate destination?
Oh, that's so hard.
No, it's not.
Why is it?
It's always Nigeria.
It's always Nigeria?
It's always Nigeria.
Really?
Yeah.
There's so many candidates now.
And we have another class action lawsuit. And my God, the different empirical evidence in here was terrifying. And there was a lot of it.
Apple AirTags stalking led to ruin and murders, lawsuit says. I hope that they used the word ruin. It's not used enough in context of like, yeah.
One girl found out that her boyfriend was lying to her about where he was going. He was heading to the bar. So she followed him to the bar in her truck and ran him over.
I've heard a lot about stalker stuff, which makes me very nervous.
But. And there was one girl, she had no idea how her stalker even targeted her. Total stranger. AirTagged her and stalked her and like attacked her or something. So they claim Apple hasn't done enough to safeguard. I don't know how you would do it.
I don't exactly. It's designed to track people or track items, so to speak. But
so they also talk about people who would move, switch cars, pay all this money, and then immediately there would be a new AirTag somewhere. Can't escape it.
If Apple was smart, they would have like they would sell another device that was like detect AirTags.
Some people do sell those, but apparently they don't work very well. They've also got that Android app, which claims to do it, but apparently that has a lot of limitations as well.
Need it to they should build something in that makes like a high-pitched noise. Toggle that on so you can find it.
And then somebody gets fired and pops one of those into the false ceiling.
Oh, yeah. See ya.
That's terrifying. We do need some way to deal with it, but I don't know what that's going to be. But I do know that we've reached the end.
This is the end. I look forward to reading all of your guys' things that made you laugh in the last week. That's not something sad. Laugh till you cry.
And join us tomorrow. We'll do both.